Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. And I'm sorry for the delay in the live stream. Um, Today was a little bit busy because we had a private ceremony, and then we'll have another private ceremony tomorrow. So it's a little bit like a little busy. And also, if you're part of the Shinto Discord server, there was also like a little bit of a situation with some recent like members and stuff. So there's just a lot to deal with, but it's okay. Um, and yeah, so thank you so much for coming. Sorry, I'm just a little bit like, you know, but it's okay. So today I wanted to talk about like just like going off what happened like on the server recently, and just like in like not about the situation, but like because it's okay. Stuff happens in communities. It was more like just like a matter of like people like being respectful and like not being respectful, and then as as people who maintain the community, it's important to like establish the rules and guidelines to like make everything go smooth. But it's not about that. Just thinking about like how people understand kami-sama. So like a lot of people kind of try like the general understanding of kami-sama is to kind of understand them the same as like the concept of like gods. So and this idea of gods isn't really like based in even any one particular like ancient religion or like theological perspective, but I feel it's like based on a mix of like how gods have come to be understood from being more detached from the concept in like the Western sphere, I would say. So like for example, um a lot of people's perception of what a god or a deity is kind of like a super powered like humanoid being who has like powers over nature. Kind of more like a superhero almost. Like if you say like, I don't know, for example, like Apollo is the god of the sun, like people might think like he can literally like control the sun or something, or like have like sun powers, when really like in the ancient world it would be more like Apollo is like a spirit like connected to the solar energies and like the sun itself, and it's just like embodied within this being, and it's not even necessarily like a humanoid spirit. Like the humanoid form was made to like represent the deity, but that's not like all the deity is. So it's a little bit complicated like that, and I find that's been true across like, at least in my own research, like in ancient Greece and ancient Rome, um Norse ancient Norse religion, um even like some Celtic religion. Like I feel like I like I'm not sure exactly because it like changes over time, and like a little bit of the like Celtic traditions are still like active too, and like folklore ways and like revival traditions. But at least I know for sure, like with like ancient Greek religion and like Roman religion, it was like way more complicated than just like a superpowered being. And like they might appear like that in mythology, but mythology and the actual religious practices were not like exactly the same. So like even though there might be like stories of the gods and like mythologies about them, and like myths that explain like natural phenomenon, it wasn't like biblical level of, how do I explain this? Like not biblical level of like truth to it. It was more kind of like a part of the religion and tradition, but not like particular to the actual worship of the god, and like in particular, unless it was like a specific mythology, like the mysteries of like Eleusis and stuff. But anyway, it was complicated, so it wasn't all like one to one all the time. But even in the mysteries of Eleusis, like the myth itself is like reflecting the like about the seasons, about life and death, and there's a lot of like more overarching themes that the myth connects to than just like it being the story itself. So it's like complicated like that. I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but it's kind of like, again, like the gods aren't like these like super powered humanoid beings that have like the ability to control things like that. It's not like that simplified. So The reason I'm bringing all this up is because I feel like that kind of concept goes into like how people view kamisama, and like especially because kamisama is often translated as deity or god. So like people start to think of that like typical concept of a deity or a god as like a super powered like humanoid being that can like control the forces of nature. But that's like not what a kamisama is, let alone what a god really is, like even in the ancient viewpoint. So I wanted to talk about that today as one of the topics. And another topic I kind of wanted to get into is like the concept of like destiny and like divine arrangement. It's not really like there's like not really fate in Shinto practices, but there is like a concept of like divine arrangement and musubi that I kind of wanted to touch on as well, because I think it ties into the whole like how are we understanding kamisama and the divinities. So I want to get into that. But let me see your comment. So Avery-san says, "I'm feeling 100% better today compared to last week. I thank Kami-sama for healing me and my girlfriend. Oh, I'm so glad to hear you're doing better, and I'm glad you and your girlfriend are healed up and doing much better. So that's really good. I'm glad to hear. Thank you for telling me. I'll give thanks to Kami-sama as well during prayers later. Thank you so much. And hello, Vadim-san. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Sorry, it's late today." I wasn't actually sure if I was able to do a stream today because like of the private ceremonies today and tomorrow, but I have some time, so I might as well keep up the pattern. Oh, hello, welcome. Good to see you. But yeah, so on the topic, like basically, basically like what are kami-sama, or like I always usually describe it as like beings that invoke a sense of awe. But I know for some people that's a little bit like vague, and it could also be applied to like the idea of like a deity as like a humanoid superpowered being or something. Like I feel like sometimes kami-sama and deities are kind of equated to like aliens almost. Like just like these like extraterrestrial superhuman like existences that like can dictate things. I guess maybe it's a little bit of an influence from like how the concept of God has evolved, but I don't know. But basically, like in the Shinto traditions and like Japanese culture, like kami-sama are the nature itself. So like when we think about like Goshintai, like the sacred body, for example, like the Goshintai of Amaterasu Mikami-sama is, or the sacred body of Amaterasu Mikami-sama is the sun itself. So like the same way that we can't like control every single part of our own bodies, like I can't control my heart beating, I can't control my like blood flowing through my veins. I can control like some like my hands, and I can control my mouth and speak English, but I can't control everything that's happening in my body. So in a similar way with kami-sama, like they have some influence over the forces of nature because that's like their bodies, but they can't control like every single thing. And like not everything bends to their will specifically because it is like intrinsically connected to them. Like it's their body. So like literally speaking. So that's why like it's not, it doesn't make sense to say like Amaterasu Omikami-sama can like control the sun or something, because it's like her body. So like again, like the same way you can't control everything in your body, the Kami-sama can't control like everything in their body. And on that note too, like even things like natural disasters, um in Shinto traditions, we say like a lot of like the violent or like rough side of nature comes from like the aramitama, like the rough spirit, like the aggressive spirit. And again, like that doesn't mean like because they're angry or upset, they like choose to hurt people. Like that's not how it's perceived. It's like the same way how like when like we get angry or upset or stressed, like our like cortisol rises and like our face gets flushed and like we get like anxious and like we have all these like chemical reactions in our body. The same way that like when a kamisama's becoming like aramitama, like a rough spirit, then like nature, like their body will begin to reflect that reaction, and it will naturally become like more aggressive or like more violent. So like that's kind of the difference, like it's not like Susanoo no Mikoto-sama saying like, oh, I'm angry, I'm gonna like sink this guy's ship, I'm gonna sink the sailors in the storm. It's more like he's angry and like the anger is causing a storm to happen and the sailors are caught in that storm. And sometimes like the kami-sama might not even want to be angry or upset, but they can't help it. Like there's some traditions like that too. And that's why we have like ceremonies in Shinto traditions that are to calm down the kami-sama, like and like not just like a kami-sama of nature, but even like ancestral spirits, like to help them calm down and like return to Nigimitama. And the ritual's purpose is to kind of like remind them of the blessings they give and their good nature, to kind of like help them, like, for lack of a better word, like snap out of it, like to help them snap out of their anger and their frustration and their upsetness, and kind of like realize like there's people here who see the good in me, and I should just like, and they're gonna get hurt if I don't calm down, so I should try to calm down. That's kind of like the meaning of the ritual, and it actually has worked like through history. So like for example, there was this story of, I forgot exactly, but there was like a series of rivers in Yamanashi Prefecture, I think. And I remember like, if I'm remembering correctly, I have to check again, but basically like these rivers would always flood and they would be super rough. Like it was impossible to build like a bridge over them. Like they were just flooding all the time and like super high waves, and like it was like dangerous and scary, and they couldn't build a bridge. They couldn't do anything. So the priests at the time tried to do a ceremony to like calm down the spirit, the kami-sama of the river. I say the spirit of the river, but it like, because there isn't like one particular kami-sama. There's like many kami-sama of this river and like the channels of it. So it was like for the whole like river system. And so they did a ceremony for these kami-sama, and they set like little like hokora, like the little shrines for them along the river. And they did these like series of ceremonies, and in doing these ceremonies and showing the proper respect, the river actually calmed down. So like there's like stories like that, like where like they do the ritual and they show the respect, and then the kami-sama kind of like calms down from that, and then the rivers became more like peaceful, and like they were able to build bridges over the rivers. So that's kind of like a big tradition. And it's also why like there's a lot of shrines on Mount Fuji, because like a lot of the rituals done there, as far as I understand it, like I haven't actually like been there directly, but what I've read about it is that like a lot of the rituals on Mount Fuji are to like calm the kami-sama of the mountain, which is Kono Hana Sake Hime no Mikoto-sama, but also like other kami-sama as well. And to like calm the spirits to calm the kami-sama of Mount Fuji, so there isn't like a big eruption and like big catastrophe. And that's why there's a lot of like shrines like on Mount Fuji itself, because it's like expressing the desire for like the mountain to remain peaceful, like for there not to be like a big eruption or loss of life. So it's kind of important like that. But again, it's like begging for mercy of the kami-sama. It's just like it's showing respect to them and like acknowledging the forces that they are inherently, and to show like reverence towards that, instead of like fear or like anger or like negative emotions. Like we want to show like positive, respectful emotions towards the kami-sama, not because like if they're already upset and angry, and like we say like mean things to the kamisama, or like show that we're scared of them. It's gonna make the kamisama more upset, because I mean, like we as humans would be upset if we were like angry and frustrated, and then someone said like, oh my god, like stay away from me, like you're a crazy person, like even though you're just like frustrated about something. So if someone came to you with like respect and kindness, you would like calm down and be like, oh well, thank you so much, like so it's kind of like that feeling. And oh, hello Rai-san, and yes, Avery-san, I love the reasons behind the ceremonies as well. Like not all ceremonies are for that reason. Like most of the ceremonies are just for like to show gratitude and appreciation for the blessings we receive. But when things are kind of like, when things are a little bit like rough, especially in nature, these ceremonies exist to help calm the kamisama down, and for people to be able to, you know, go through their daily lives, but like with respect and appreciation. Yes. Oh, yes. And yes, Avery says, I don't want to kamisama. I want them to be happy. Yes, me too. I want kamisama to be happy too. But so one thing I do want to mention is that like I just want to mention it because like sometimes people worry, like if, like for example, like if they pray for like good weather or something, but then it's like stormy on the day they prayed for good weather. It doesn't mean like kami-sama's angry at like them in particular. Like basically there's so many things happening in like kakuri, or like the unseen world, that are like so beyond like humanity, or like ourselves. Like humanity is like one little like section of a kami-sama's like viewpoint, so they're like, kami-sama has like, the kami-sama have so many like perspectives and like different like like connections, and like they have like their whole other life in the unseen world that we humans may have no idea about. So like the idea is that like something can happen in the unseen world in Kakuryō, and it upsets the kami-sama, and like we have no idea, and it has nothing to do with humanity. Like humanity didn't do anything, but the kami-sama's upset, and so the Aramitama will come, and then something bad will like appear in our, from our human perspective. So that's why the rituals can help too, because it kind of like helps the kami-sama. A good example is like, it's kind of like how when you're like a little child, and then like your parents are going through something in their life that you have, like you don't really know what's happening, like you kind of have an idea but you don't really know, and there's like so many other things that they're dealing with, like at work or in the family or in like taking care of you, and there's like so many things going on, and as a kid you don't really like understand it, like the big picture. So like even if like your parent or like guardian gets upset, it might not have anything to do with you in particular, but just something that's happening in their life that we don't really like understand fully. We don't have an idea, but we don't really know. So like, but then like if you as the child like do something nice to your parent, like they would calm down. Hopefully, like generally speaking, like at least for me, like if I was like angry about something going on in my life, and then like my child like showed me a cute picture, I'd be like, oh, like I'd be happy again. So it's kind of a similar like dynamic here that happens between humanity and kami-sama. Like there can be so much that we don't understand happening with kami-sama in the unseen world, but like we as humanity have the ability to show respect through rituals and connect to kami-sama through rituals that can help them like become like more peaceful again, more joyful again, and give blessings again. So it's kind of like that. Like it's not as simple as the metaphor I gave, but like the similar kind of concept. It's not like that they're angry so they like punish people. It's like very rarely like that. It can happen for sure. Like there's such thing as like noroi, and there's tatari, but tatari is a little bit different too. That's more like a cause and effect thing. It's not like a conscious thing. But like for the most part, generally speaking, like we're so like we're such like a small part. Um like it's we have to do something like really bad in order for Kami-sama to like actively like scold us or like be angry with us. Like we have to do something like genuinely like bad. But that being said, like for there's another thing too in traditions where like humans can do something bad or like irreverent and then they get tatari, but that's not like Kami-sama like punishing like you. That's like we do something irreverent and we cause kegare in the world from that, or even like from our ancestors too. And then there's like an accumulation of like kegare and sumi, which is like offenses or like crimes or like bad things. And this accumulation can, depending on what it is, it can trigger tatari, which is like it's translated as like divine retribution, but I wouldn't really translate it that way. Like to me, tatari is just tatari, which basically means like a good example that was explained to me was like when you go like like imagine like those like spy movies where the person goes into the house and there's like all these lasers like or something, and if they walk in the laser like the alarm goes off and then like so like it's a whole situation. Tatari is kind of like that. It's kind of like tripping off an alarm system in a house. Like it's just like automatic, where like if you do a particular series of like tsumi and kegare, like negative things and like offenses or reverences, then it can like trigger tatari on you, but it's like an automatic thing, so it's just like it's like setting off a trap, but it's not a trap. It's like just an automatic thing that can happen from our own actions. And like only Kami-sama can stop the alarm, but they might not stop it if it was actually bad. So that that's kind of like that. So like for example, like you hear a lot of stories about tatari of like Inari o Kami-sama. Like I remember hearing a story of like at Fushimi Inari Taisha, like a doctor, he put his, I think it was like an offering stone. I don't remember, but he like offered something on Inariyama, but he like put his offering in front of everybody else in like an egotistical way because he thought he was like above everyone else. Like he thought he was like more rich and more famous, more popular, and like his prayer mattered more than all the other people. So he like purposely like put his own like prayer tablet or something like in front of all the others, like to like demean them. It was a pretty bad thing. But then like from this situation, like I think he went home like that day and like his house was on fire. Um and like like so many bad things were happening. And it's not like Inario Kami-sama was like, okay, you're bad, like I'm gonna burn your house down. It was like literally like he tripped the alarm of his from his own bad heart, and then the bad thing happened. But Inario Kami-sama like was like, well, like this is the consequences of your actions. So and he had to deal with that, right? So it might seem like, and I'm pretty sure there was like a deeper backstory to that, like because it might seem like out of proportion, like you offer something over others and then like your house burns down. I'm pretty sure it was deeper than that, like especially with the stories I've heard like personally, but I can't like talk about on stream. It always goes deeper than the surface. But like yeah, like Inario Kami-sama probably could have like, because there's been stories of Inario Kami-sama like putting out fires. So that they could have probably put out the fire, but because the person was actually like really bad hearted, it just like happened like that. And like so that's the reality of like Shinto traditions and like stories that you hear about tatari and stuff. That's why it's scary, and that's why like you always want to try to be like sincere. And again, like I don't like to talk about it because I don't want people to like walk on eggshells with Kami-sama. Like I don't want people to like always be afraid of Kami-sama, because that's not good either. Because if you're afraid of Kami-sama, you'll be distant from Kami-sama, and then it will be harder to receive blessings. So you always want to stay close to Kami-sama. But so don't be like afraid, but the truth is, like, if you get too like hubristic, like if you have too much hubris or ego, or like, you get lots of blessings and then you think, oh, I'm better than everyone else, and then you do something disrespectful, it's possible that like tatari can happen. So we just have to be like mindful, like, like be thankful, be humble, don't worry about mistakes too much. But if you're like purposely being like hubristic, like ego, that you are at risk of triggering tatari. So that's kind of the meaning of that. Um, as for like batsu, like bachi, batsu, which is like punishment. So this can happen too, and it's not the same as tatari. There's so many things, but like the idea of like bachi, I'm gonna just say bati. It's also batsu, but it means like punishment. And it's kind of like this idea that like if you do something really really wrong, like kami-sama will like scold you, like punish you, but it's not like you're going to be subjected to like horrible suffering. It just means like you'll go through like a hard or difficult situation in order to help you learn like discipline, like it's more like a discipline. So like if you were doing like a series of like really bad things and coming someone like they're gonna like scold you for that, um then that's kind of like then you go through like your own hardships that you've also like caused to others. Yeah, like every sense has like teaching you a lesson. Exactly, it's like that, like discipline, teaching a lesson. That's kind of like bachi, like punishment, but it's not like you're gonna be like in eternal suffering and your life is going to be horrible and you can't fix anything. It's not like that. It's just like literally like discipline or scolding or something like that. So like yeah, like kami-sama will like punish in a way, but it's not like punishing, but yeah, like discipline. Like exactly like Avery says, like how parents would to their children if they did something bad. Exactly. And like they did something bad and like talking doesn't work to them, like because kami-sama will try to like show you like through your life, at least in my experience, like the right way, like how to kind of like grow yourself and evolve yourself. Like you'll kind of start to realize like, okay, I'm like there's things I can improve on, and you work towards it. But if you notice that there's things you can improve on and you don't care to change them, then you become at risk of like batsu, like discipline from kami-sama. um and that's literally like you said, Avery-san, like kami-sama, like giving discipline to the child who's not listening. And that's the only like way that they're gonna actually learn. And it is for like the better, it's for like our own good, like it's not like just to see us suffer. Basically like kami-sama who we like know and like worship and enshrine, they basically want to help humanity. So like not every kami-sama cares about humanity or wants to help us, but generally speaking they don't have shrines. Or like they're not worshipped by people because they don't want to be known by people or worshipped by people or interact with people. But the kami-sama who do have like worship and like faiths, they like it's reciprocal, right? Like as much as we care about them, they also want to help guide us and like protect us and give us blessings. So like if we're praying to like for example, I don't know, like Amaterasu Omikami-sama, and we get like batsu, it's not because she just wants to make you in pain or suffering. It's because she wants you to learn and grow, because she's a kami-sama connected to humanity and human life. So that's kind of the distinction. But there is like, again, there's like yaoi orozu no kami-sama. So like not all kami-sama really care about humans or like really care if like something bad happens to us or anything like that. But it's again like that's less of like actively trying to make us suffer. It's more like indifference. So like if a kami-sama is going to cause like a huge windstorm and my roof blows off, that's not like them caring or like purposely trying to make my house destroyed. That's just they're just like, I don't care that your house is there. I want to do a windstorm. So it's like that too. But I have not come across like a specific, like, the concept of like smiting in Shinto practices. Like there's no kami-sama who's gonna be like, you know, like send a lightning bolt to your house because they got angry at you or something. It's not like that, that I found in traditions. It's more nuanced and complicated. So I think it's important to remember that, and especially because, again, if we go back to the root understanding of kami-sama, where they're not like actually controlling the forces of nature, like the forces of nature are their body. So like, that's just like how it is, right? So like, for example, like if a person was like, I don't know, like let's say like a kami-sama who's kind of more like, they don't they don't think about humanity. Like let's say like, again, like a wind kami-sama, and they just want to go really fast. Like they just want to do really strong winds because that's what they want to do. Like that's their existence. And they just like don't consider like people's houses are there or something, because like humans are so like, just again like a small part of the whole like existence. But um but then there will be like a kami-sama, like a wind kami-sama, who does care about humanity because they have a shrine, and they also don't want their shrine to be ruined by the wind. So they might try to like talk to the other wind kami-sama, or like communicate something, or like make a compromise. So that can also happen. So it's like very like complicated and nuanced, and like many different forces of kami-sama. Like it's not like simple, clear cut, like this is how it is. Like it's not really like that. So I hope I can explain that. Let's see. So Kratom says most kami-sama are like us humans. Ah, yes. That's one of the reasons I think they don't care about the majority. Oh no, exactly. Like that, yeah, like a lot of them, like that's why like there's a belief that like basically humanity is a kami-sama in a human body. So like our kami nature is pretty much like dimmed or like obscured by the human mind and body. But basically once we die, we're also like the same essence and existence as a kami-sama. So that's why like kami-sama are also very like human per se, because like in the traditional belief we are like basically the same essence at the core, just we're like in the unfortunate position or fortunate position, it depends on how your viewpoint, of living in a human body with a human mind. So it's kind of like that. Michael says, what about people who don't worship kami-sama, like for example some radical groups, people who cause harm because they think it's their god's will? Would kami-sama try to punish them? Maybe that's an awkward question. Oh no, it's not awkward. It's not awkward. So this actually has happened in Japanese history to an extent. So I remember that like, so I don't know, it might be complicated because like at least in Japan, like it's kind of understood that the kami-sama of Japan kind of operate in their own like society function, and then kami-sama, or like deities of other countries and other lands, they like work in their own system and their own society. So I'm only going to talk about like the kami-sama of Japan, and like the idea that has happened here, not the idea, but the understanding of the kami-sama here in Japan, and what has happened like historically. So basically when there was kind of like some situations in Japanese history, where the earliest example being like, I think I remember, if I remember this correctly, I don't remember exactly. I don't remember names or like specific dates, but basically like there was a push to like stop practicing Shinto entirely and just practice Buddhism, like way back in like the Asuka period. Like they just basically like, we don't need like our original, like we don't need these like folky, like old traditions. Like we just let's just follow the example of these advanced kingdoms like in China and Korea, and just practice Buddhism because it's like civilized and it's like the higher image or something. you know that's kind of the idea that they were trying to follow. But when they tried to push that, and they tried to like push for people to stop worshiping the kamisama, a lot of like disasters started to happen. So like epidemics and like tragedies in the imperial palace, and like all just like very bad, and like crop failure, and like all these kind of like plagues and like bad situations. And that like everyone got kind of scared. Like in the past, they're like, okay, this is kind of like all of a sudden now, like when we talk about Buddhism, like this is happening. And there was like a family of priests. I want to say it's the Nakatomi clan, but I'm not like sure right now. But they were like saying like we have to like worship the Kami-sama. Like you can practice Buddhism, but we have to keep worshiping the Kami-sama. Like otherwise this is not gonna stop. Like we feel like Kami-sama are angry, and they're trying to show us like this is not acceptable. So like please just let us like keep worshiping the Kami-sama. Like you can have Buddhism here, but let us keep worshiping the Kami-sama. So ultimately, like the compromise was made, and when the compromise was established, like the Shinto practices, like the original religious practices of Japan before Buddhism, were not going to stop, then like all the other like bad things stopped happening. Like the epidemic went away, the crops came back, like all this sort of thing. So that's kind of like that was like the baseline of like why like the worship of Kami-sama has stayed pretty strong because of this like history. And there was other points in history where like people tried to like either like use the Kami-sama's name and like speak for them in like an oracle, but it wasn't legit. And then like again, like something bad would happen, or like for example, I remember one emperor, he tried to like enshrine two kami-sama together. I think it was like Amaterasu Omi kami-sama and Okuni no Shio kami-sama in the same like shrine, without like making any distinction and like being warned not to. And then when he did that, like another huge like epidemic came, and like crop failure. So like he like unenshrined like he like put Okuni no Shio kami-sama in a separate shrine, and then everything went back to normal. So like basically this pattern keeps happening through Japanese history. So whenever like a group of people cause harm, or an authority tries to do something like extreme, like either showing disrespect to the kami-sama, or like doing something like really offensive, historically speaking, there's always been something that happened in that affected human lives, like almost like immediately after. Like people aren't sure if it's like tatari or batsu, but basically something happened. So, and that still happens to this day. Like for example, like if I remember correctly, at Haneda Airport, they were going to like destroy the Inari Shrine to make way for the runway of the airport. And I think there's still a tori there to like mark it. But they didn't do like the proper rituals, or like ask the permission properly. And I'm pretty sure like I'm pretty sure during the like construction, like so many problems were happening, and they still didn't stop. And then I think one of the workers actually passed away like in an accident from the whole situation. So it's like like situations like this can happen like in a pattern throughout Japanese history, even to modern times. So it's kind of like, even if they try to speak for kami-sama, or like say it's kami-sama's will, or like do something like really like harmful, like generally something crazy will happen, and then like it stops. So, and that also pretty much kind of happened with like when Christianity was getting big and bigger in Japan, and like the missionaries were like really trying to like convert people. It also caused a lot of upheaval, and a lot of like bad situations were happening. If I remember, there was also like another epidemic. Like epidemics seem to be like something that is pretty consistent. But also like fires, and like tsunami and everything like that. So and also because of the like historical memory of what happened when like whenever people try to like remove a kami-sama's worship, or like stop it, that also like cause people to be like we cannot like accept this. So it was like that. And yes, Michael, like yeah, the Mongolian invasions, like with the typhoon that like stopped them from invading, that was another point in Japanese history that affirmed like to not like go against the will of the kamisama, and like we have to show like respect and like not try to like use them or like anything like that. So I think this like collective like pattern of history of like real tangible events is one of the main factors why Japan has like continued Shinto traditions for so long. And it's like one of the few countries that like hasn't been like, you know, affected by like, you know, Christianity or like another religion. So it's pretty interesting to see the history, and I think it contributes to why like it's been so like rooted in Japan and Japanese culture because of these like tangible events, you know, like undeniable. So yeah, it's pretty it's pretty intense like that. Um and I don't know if it's like, but then again there's like situations that are like you think that the kamisama should punish someone, but then nothing really happens. And oh no, it's my pleasure to answer. But yeah, like I don't know, there's been some situations where it's like you think like kamisama should do something, but then nothing really happens. But then maybe something does happen and we don't really see it because it's like behind the scenes, you know, or like why didn't they do something before a tragedy happened? So there's still some questions, you know, there's still some questions, but as far as the understanding goes, it's because like kamisama again, they're not like all powerful, they're not like the puppet master, like they like they can't just like, you know, like just, you know, snap their finger and it's all good. I think what happens like based like I not what I think, but like what happens based on the traditions and like what I also think it's true is that like the kamisama will get so upset and like angry and then aramitama, and from the aramitama that causes like a domino effect of like the really big bad things, you know, because like batsu or like bachi, like the like more conscious thing, that's never like, you know, getting a serious illness or like getting a serious illness is part of tatari, but like a consciously like divinely influenced thing, it's more like again like it's more like a person like trying to like guide you and like discipline you. It's more like a strict sensei, like a human level of like discipline. Like, you know, like a sensei might say like, you know, okay, do like 20 push-ups because, you know, you need to learn discipline or something. But it's never something really like, you know, severe illness or like a crisis. That's more of like tatari or aramitama, a realm. So like what I mean by that is like, so these like big huge situations like epidemics and natural disasters and like a person's house burning down or like an accident that results in death or these really big things, um they happen as like a domino effect of the aramitama, of the accumulation of tsumi and kegare. It happens like over like a snowballing of bad situations, and then it just like explodes into like one like huge catastrophe. And you know, so it's like that, you know, so it's like things have to get like really like bad and then there's a reaction, rather than just like coming someone's like, you know, like like I'm angry so I'm gonna like stop this person. Like maybe sometimes that would be better, but according to tradition it's not really like that. So things have to get kind of like out of hand before something stops it, and that's more like the domino effect, like the aramitama. So it's kind of complicated like that, especially because like in the sense of like discipline, um like kamisama might not even be like upset with you really, like they're fresh, maybe they might be like frustrated, but like discipline always comes from a place of love, like wanting to see us grow and see us like become better people. So it's not like really the same kind of energy as like they're so upset and they're so angry and they're just like everything's like all over the place, and it's kind of like when you're so angry and you're just like pushing things or like throwing, like some people throw plates or like, it's like you're just so angry that you're like kind of going wild. That's like aramitama. So versus like, discipline where it's like more controlled and it's coming from a good place. And obviously like a true parent doing discipline would not want to like actually hurt like or abuse their child, so it's different like that. I hope that made sense. but but yeah, so but again, like this is not like an overall like explanation for like all the deities or like the spiritual side of the world. This is just like from the perspective of like the kami-sama within the Japanese cultural context and like traditions. So like I'm not commenting on like other traditions or like, because recently like just adjacently related, like I was online and stuff, and I saw some people who were like saying like, oh, if the gods are so powerful, like the Greek gods or like the Norse gods, why didn't they stop Christianity from like taking over or something? Like it was like a really rude question, or like it wasn't even a question, it was just like an attack on someone. And like first of all, like you should never say that to someone. Like that's really like disrespectful and like rude in any context. But I like, you can't comment like how the gods like perceive things or like how they work through things. Like I would honestly argue like there's also a little bit of like humanity's own free will into it too, and like politics and like money and power. Like the whole thing is very complicated, right? And like even there was even a time when like people would convert to Christianity thinking it was like they could practice their traditions and worship on the old gods alongside like the Christian practices, but then it wasn't like that. And then it was like, I don't have to go into it, but it was way more complicated, right? And again, like there's that misunderstanding that like the gods can like just like are superhero humans with like they just point and they zap you away. Like I don't think it's like that, but I know some people think it's like that, but personally speaking, I don't believe it's that simple. Because there's way worse things that would deserve a zap, and I'm pretty sure the gods would do that, but it's complicated. So but I feel like even though all that history happened, the fact that like we're in 2026, and even after so much attempts to like erase the old gods and the old ways, people are still now like still interested, and they still want to learn about them, and people still wish that they had the old ways if they were erased really 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 badly. So we don't really like, we as humanity don't really like forget about those old traditions either. And there's a lot of people who came into like Shinto practices like because it's a tradition like based in the worship of the old gods, like the gods of nature, the kami-sama of nature, I should say. And that tradition of like lineage and culture and respect for the environment around us and the fellow person, like those like core human spiritual religious concepts, we're like naturally drawn to as a species, I feel. So like I feel like even though like there's this rhetoric, certain people say like, why didn't your gods whatever. I don't think it's that simple either, because obviously the person is saying that to someone who still worships the gods. So like I don't think their worship is like it's gone, like it's still here, it just takes different forms. So it's like I think the gods are still here, they're still like, their connection to us has not gone away. It's just it's complicated, right? Like it's not as simple as we think it is. So yeah. Avery-san says, I found it disrespectful and invasive when someone asked me how I could be Shinto and Christian. It's private and complicated to explain. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on the server. Yeah, like I don't know, like I don't really like, it's again like, so the thing about like, so for me, like personally speaking, I understand, like I said in a few streams ago, like I understand having criticism of religious practices, and that can be like for any religion, even like Shinto, you know, you can have criticism. I think that's okay. But when it comes to like an individual person, and like especially when we don't know the person actually, I think we should like, I think we should just like, unless the person is like actively causing harm or like running up like a public worship place, or like, you know, pretending to be a priest or a clergy or an authority, like if it's just someone's like personal individual practice at their own house, like at the end of the day, like it would be bordering on like trying to control what someone else does. And like you can like it's important to try to guide people and teach people, but also like there has to be a line, you know, especially when someone's just like, you know, like because it's like again, like you don't want to come off as like trying to control what other people do, because then you become like basically in the same like level of like, you know, like, you know what I mean, like going into like the bordering of like fascism and like controlling and authoritarianism and so on. So, you know, like there's a certain point where you have to kind of be like, it's like on the border between like respectful and like, yes, you want to like show respect and guidance and knowledge to traditions and their beliefs and their ways, and we can have criticisms about that, but then we also have to like see people as like individuals and understand like everyone has their own history and like perspectives and like place in their life, and it's important not to like force our like force too hard on someone. And like for example, I see this on the Konko Faith. Like a lot of times in Konko Kyo, people are like, okay, Konko Kyo is like really open, so like I can do anything. You know, they're like, I can worship like, I don't know, Yahweh in Kongo Faith. And I'm like, I mean, so no, but like for example, like if you say like I'm practicing Kongo Faith and I pray to Tenchikano Kami-sama and Yahweh in the Kongo Faith context. It's not like saying like I go to a Kongo Hiromai and I go to a Christian church. It's like, you know, like saying I practice Kongo Faith and I worship Yahweh in the Kongo Faith. It's like so like it's very difficult because it's like that's not what defines Kongo Faith. It's like it's complicated because it's like I know what you're trying to practice. Like you want to worship Yahweh and you want to worship Tenchiga no Kami-sama. But there's a way to do that respectfully, both to the tradition and to the gods themselves. So that's kind of like where I'm coming from. Like you don't have to like follow one thing like obsessively, but it's important to remember to have respect for each way and like understanding from the basis. So yeah, like you know, like like it's like saying as well, like if you say like I'm practicing Honkokyo and like I like enshrine, I put like Inario Kami-sama's Ofuda in my Konko altar. It's like wait, it's like wait, and then it's like the same. It's like vice versa. It's like if I put a Tenchi Kakitsuke in my Inario Kami-sama Kamidana, like no, we like no, because like we have to respect each tradition, like each faith. Like it's all like Shinto, even in this context, but we have to respect each faith as they are and the traditions they are. And no one is saying like you can't have an Inari Kamidana and then a Konko Kyo Kamidana, but like you have to like respect them, like keep them like their own spaces, you know? So like that's why like if someone says like, you know, I'm Christian and Shinto, I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know the situation, but I can see it if like someone goes to church because it's like a cultural thing and it's like a family thing and it's like, you know, they feel a connection to Jesus or any number of reasons. It's not my business, but you know, that's I can see it. I can see it. And then, they say I practice Shinto because they have a kamidana in their house, or they go to the jinja or something. And that's fine, like, because it's respecting each path. And like, maybe on the Christian side, it's like, okay, but like, there's not really like an acceptance, theologically speaking, of the kamisama. But that's for the person themselves to contend with, and not for like other people to kind of like control, like, you should or shouldn't do this. Like, that's for the person to like deal with in their own personal experience. And as long as they're just like respecting each tradition, like that's it, like that's the only thing we can really guide someone on, is like just respecting the traditions as they are. And that's, we should like try to teach them and show people, this is Shinto and this is Christianity, and you can do both, but do them one at a time. Like, that's it. And even within Shinto, right? Like, this is Inari faith, this is Konko faith, that's this is that. Keep it there and respectful. And whatever, anything else in the middle that you personally will contend with, that's for you personally, privately, to manage. But as long as you're respecting the traditions, that's the important part, right? So that's why it's like, there has to be kind of like that balance, about people's personal things. So that's kind of my perspective. Um, so Vidim-san says, I think when we tell someone something, oh, sorry, let me reread that. I think when we tell someone something online is actually the same as a public space. It's okay that people may be curious and want to ask something. And Avery-san says, to me, it kind of felt like a judgmental question. I guess so. Yeah, like, it's normal for people to ask, but yeah, the context of this situation, like, I saw it, and the person was kind of like, they didn't ask like in a, like, it wasn't like, oh, why do you practice both? It was like, it's like, why do you practice both? Because in Christianity they say that you're not allowed to worship the kamisama. It's like, oh no, because it felt kind of like, basically saying like you're doing a wrong thing from the Christian side. But it's like, every side, as long as you're just like, you keep the Shinto stuff Shinto, and then the Christian stuff Christian, like anything else is like for you to work through on your own. That's my perspective. So, it's just showing like basic human respect to one another. So, and that's what I feel. And Vidimsa says, oh, not the Konko Kyo is so open, so we can do anything. Yeah, I know. It's like, it's so frustrating. Like, they've had so many incidents like that. And it's like, yes, Konko is open because we don't like demand exclusivity. Like, you don't have to like only practice Konko faith forever and you can't do anything else. Like, we don't say that. Like, you can be Buddhist and practice Konko. And we have people in our Hiromai here, like in our shrine, who like, they've been practicing Konko Kyo their whole life. They come here their whole life. And then at the end of their life, they had a Buddhist funeral because they had to be like interred with their family members who are Buddhist. And that's like perfectly fine. Like, it's not like something to like shun someone on. But that also means we don't like worship like, or like we don't have Buddhist statues in the Hiromai. And we don't pray like, we don't have like Gautama Buddha statue here, or like bodhisattvas here. And why don't we? Is it because we don't like them? It's like, no, because because Konko Hiromai is for, Konko faith, like the whole traditions of the Konko faith. And if you wanted to do Buddhist practices, you go to the Buddhist temple. Like, it's just, that's kind of how it is in Japan here. And I honestly think that's reasonable to ask. I think it's reasonable to ask, like, just to show respect to the traditions, and then, like, have your own personal religious freedom. And again, like, as long as you're not like trying to be like a clergy, or like say it as an authority, or like have a public space, it's generally not like a big deal, generally speaking, like, because like, again, we shouldn't try to like control what other people do in their private time, in their private life, like, especially if it's not like affecting other people, so just showing the basic respect. So Planko says, I have a few friends that have mixed faith, but they do not keep their kamidan and altar separate. I wish I knew what to say when they ask me for Shinto advice. Oh no. Yeah, so that's a big problem. So yeah, I feel like if you can, like, just try to say, like, because okay, so in my experience, right? So like a lot of people, when I say like you should keep it separate, they get like offended and they say like, well, why? This is like my personal practice. And I'm like, okay, I understand this, yes, but the reason that it's good to keep it separate is to respect the traditions. Like what I mean by that is like these traditions were carried over by like generations of people over a long time. And now we're coming into the tradition as a newcomer, or maybe we're born into it. But basically we're like continuing this lineage, this pathway, right? So, if the traditions are not like actively harmful or like disrespectful or like weird, it's good to carry on the good traditions, and the important traditions. Like, I don't mean like ignore everything that we personally don't like. I mean like, like keep the traditions as they are as much as possible in line with modern sensibilities and like mindset, so you know what I mean? Like, for example, like if a tradition once had like human sacrifice, like maybe we're not gonna do human sacrifice in 2026. But we're gonna keep the other stuff like the prayers, the rituals. We're gonna keep as much as we can because it's good. That's what I mean. But yeah, so because we're continuing tradition, we should try to respect that. And on top of that, where it's also showing respect to the deity, to the divinity that we are worshiping. Because in a lot of traditions, if almost all of them, a lot of them say like these traditions came, like were directly taught by the deity or the divine force themselves. So like, if the deity has taught people like this is the good way to show worship or reverence, um then we should follow those, like we should follow that tradition to also show respect to the deity. So like for example, like let's say I'm just gonna give like a random example. So let's say like deity A says to worship me, please give me, like, I would appreciate offerings of like apples and incense or something, and I want to have a statue to represent me, or I will use a statue to represent me. And then deity B says, I don't want to have any like icons or statues, and I prefer to have candles and offerings of like rice to worship like me or the kami-sama, or like or the deities. So that there's like two different traditions now. And so if I follow this tradition, it's showing respect to deity A. And if I follow deity B's traditions, I'm showing respect to deity B. So that's why it's also important, because you're showing respect to like the people who came before us, who carried on this tradition and practices and like rituals. And it's also showing respect to the deity themselves, who the ritual is said to bring blessings and like guidance and to good things to people. So that's kind of why like it's important to do that, rather than consider about like our own personal preference or comfort. It's thinking about outside of ourselves and the whole that we're a part of, like both the ancestors, the deities, the culture. We're a part of this whole. It's not just like us as an individual and like what we personally want to practice. It's thinking of a more like collective mindset, if that makes sense. So yeah. I will try to gently guide them, may be able to use this advice. I hope they will listen. They like to think they know best. Oh no. I will pray that they'll listen. Hopefully they will understand. It's not just about them as the individual, but to respect the whole of the traditions. And again, like no one is stopping them from worshiping like multiple deities or multiple traditions. But again, like it's the compromise. It's like the balance between what we individually feel called to or feel we is good for us, versus also honoring the whole, both the divinities, the ancestors, the culture. So it's like that balance between the two. Excuse me, sorry. And Michael says, I'm Christian and Shinto. I have my Inri Jesus cross on a cross on top of my kamidana. Oh no. Actually, I saw some theories in the past where people thought Inri or like INRI meant Inari. And so I saw some theories on the internet, like even from Japanese people, that connected like Inri to Inari. And they were saying like, oh, like Inari has been worshipped like even in Christianity because of that. And I was like, what? So and me and my friend kind of like have a joke about it, like not like not like it's like joking about like Christianity or like Inari faith, just like the idea that like that like Inari Okami-sama is like even on the Inri, but it's so silly. Oh, but yeah, thank you, Risen. Thank you for coming. Please take care. Thank you. And yeah, Plank also, thank you, Oli Sensei. We are in a weird spot. They see me as a Shinto authority. I am not, but are also pushing boundaries there. Oh no, I'm so sorry. But honestly, like if you are like not if you are because you are practicing Shinto and you know a lot about it, in a way it's like an authority in a way because like like it's not like clergy or like formalized authority, but you have the experience and the practice and the worship to be able to guide them because you're like maybe you're not like so what I'm trying to say is like you're not sensei but you're like senpai, right? So you're a senpai to the person who is asking you how to practice, and you have the experience and knowledge and oh sorry. Oh hi Zephyr, oh my gosh. But yeah, so even more so like that's okay. But yeah, Zephyr, like because you have the practice experience knowledge um and like experience like all of these things together and you've been learning for a long time, maybe not again like you're not on the level of like sensei in particular, but senpai definitely. And this also has nothing to do with age. It has to do with the length of time that you've been practicing and learning. So like for example, like I know some people who like their actual age is like young, like maybe like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like maybe they're already older right now. But like I knew someone once who was 19, 18, and they felt really bad because they're like, oh, I don't have the right qualifications to like teach about Shinto or like you know express my knowledge. But I'm like, no, because you've been practicing for a long time, and even if someone who's like 30 or 40 like asks you for advice, you're still their senpai in Shinto practices because you've been practicing a long time. That's kind of like what the senpai status is. It's the same thing in like workplace in Japanese culture, um like for example in like a lawson or like a konbini. Like if an older person comes to work with like younger people, the younger people are their senpai because they've been working at the konbini a longer time than the new person, even if they're older. And like of course the younger people will show respect to the older person, but the younger people are still their senpai in the world of like konbini work, convenience store work. So it's the same here, like in Shinto practices, like because you've been practicing longer and you've been learning from senseis longer too. Like that's the important part. You've been learning from senseis. That's why you're like a senpai to them and you can teach them from those experiences and knowledge. So yes, I hope that makes sense. But hopefully they listen and they understand and they can be a little bit more like understanding of the reason why it's good to keep it separate. Michael says, how that feels so wrong. Well, Inari-sama is the kami-sama of crop and agriculture, and Jesus is made of bread and wine. Works well. I guess. Yeah, that's what the theory was saying. They were like, oh yeah, the like wheat motifs on the altar is representative of Inari's rice. And I'm like, oh my god, this is like a conspiracy theory. It's like a crazy conspiracy theory. If I find it again, I'll like link it in the server because it's really funny. Oh no, but you said, oh yeah, take your time to write. I'm sorry. If you want, maybe like you could also write in the Discord, like in the community. I forgot the name of the channel. The community outreach, I think. If it works better, but yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know why YouTube does this, but yeah. So, but hopefully, like, yeah, hopefully, like people understand. But I don't know. But honestly, like I've learned, like the interesting thing is like the thing about like not trying to force people what they do in their personal life. I actually learned that while here in Japan, because I feel like when I was living in Canada, I was more like, no, like you have to like follow it this way, like you know, you can't do this, and like you can't do that. Even about purpose, like people's like personal like nuanced beliefs. Like I don't mean like really crazy stuff. Like I would tell people if it was really, really crazy. Like I don't know, believing like Atlantis aliens in the Kamidana or something. Or like I've seen some Kamidana with like inappropriate stuff on it. And I'm like, no, like I'm sorry. I know this is your personal practice, but like just no, like this is not acceptable. um or like recently like someone said that could like they could like harm Kami-sama or like hurt them, and I was like, no, like I understand that's like your personal belief, but also like it's enroaching on the traditions, and it's like to such a like extreme level that like I'm just gonna tell you no. So it's just like, and like after like trying to like tell them, like trying to understand, like am I misunderstanding something, did you really mean that? But no, they really meant that. So yeah, that's kind of like that's kind of too much. So but again, like everything is context and nuance, and like it depends on the individual person. Yeah, it was very wild. It was like like I had no words for it, honestly. I was like, and I don't want to sound mean, but also like I don't want to sound mean, but also there's like a line, there's like a line that you have to kind of like respect, because like imagine if I always, whenever I get into like complicated gray moral stuff, like maybe I'm being mean, maybe I'm not being mean, I think about like if I put myself in the person's shoes and I like went to like a server of like people who like worship the Norse gods, and I said like, yeah, I can literally like I can kill Odin, like how would I not understand? That would be super rude and awful, and like mean to say to people who I know. Like I can understand. I come into their space knowing and consciously aware that the people here are worshiping Odin as a deity, and I say I kill your god. Like 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 I cannot imagine myself doing that. Um and it's just very like, again, like it's crossing the line. So, and like I would, it would be really nice of that community to like ask me like what exactly do you mean, instead of like outright banning me, honestly. But if I like, even if I was asked to explain and like double down on the idea, well, that's that's true on the mythology, but you know what I mean, like the idea that like, yeah, it's just like very like, it's very just like, it's not right, it's not right. Like even if I didn't agree with the religion itself, I would just not go into that space. Like I just would not interact with the people and keep it to myself. Like I would say my criticisms about the religion, but I wouldn't go into a space made for people of that religion and like personally like antagonize the people there. Like I think that's crossing the line. I feel like it goes beyond like theology or like religious belief, and I feel like it goes into the territory of like basic respect. And I don't like it when people do that to me, so I don't want to be the person who does that to others. So again, it's not like a religious thing, but it's like a personal human thing. And that's why I couldn't really comprehend like why this was happening. And I don't know if that person is going through something or like they have something going on in their life. But at the end of the day, like when you're like we're trying to have a dialogue and you just like double down on the like really offensive and like inflammatory and like rude behavior. It's just like, okay, well, like why are you here then? So like we cannot like keep you in this space because you clearly are not interested in being an actual community member and like respectful of the people here. You just want to like assert your own beliefs. So like I'm sorry, but like we have to let you go. Like it's like I don't know what to say. So yeah, it's just like I don't know, like again, like I hate when stuff like that happens, but you have to kind of like just set the board, like you have to set the line somewhere, right? Otherwise it's just like I don't know, like it's just wrong to me. So but yeah, it was a busy morning. Yeah. And yeah, Michael says, well, based on legends, it's possible to get Odin. Yes, but yeah. But that was a whole situation. That was like Ragnarok already. So like I don't know. Like I don't think you can kill Odin on a Tuesday and nothing happens, you know. So, I think something big would happen. But again, like I wouldn't go into community and you know, like for me personally, like I respect all the gods. So like I would never say that in general. Like it's just crazy, you know. And yeah, it's inflammatory at best, blasphemy at worst, as Zephyr says. But yeah, I agree. Like, for example, like I have my own situation, like qualms, issues, criticisms about the God called like Yahweh and like how he's understood. And I'm like, I guess I'm like more of like a Gnostic in that sense. I don't know, not really. I just see Yahweh for his origin point as like a god of the Canaanite religion. That's kind of how I'm seeing him. But I'm not gonna go into a Christian server and say like, oh well, did you know like Yahweh was actually a god of the Canaanite religion and you guys like are all wrong? Like what? Like I cannot imagine doing that. Like going into their space and like again, like it's not even about theology, it's about like basic human decency. Like maybe I personally have this belief, but I'm not gonna like go to their space and like cause a situation. So that's all I'm trying to say. Like, you know, you can have your beliefs, but again, there's a line about like basic respect for other people and like etiquette and like social dynamics and like again, like it's very basic. It's very basic baseline. And again, like it's not like it's my personal web page. It's not like it's my twitter.com like where I can say whatever I want because it's my page. This is like a community of people with like every individual is here to share their own beliefs and their experiences. Again, like why am I imposing my beliefs on this community? It makes me no better than the fundamentalists that I extremely dislike. I really don't like fundamentalists or extremists of like any religion, so I don't want to emulate that same behavior even if I have different beliefs. I'm not going to emulate that disrespectful behavior. So that's what I'm trying to say. There's room for everything, but there's a way to do things in like respect, you know. So that's what I'm trying to say. Sometimes people misunderstand me and they say like, oh, so I can't say anything bad about like any religion. I'm like, I'm not saying that. Like or like they say like, oh, so I can't have my own beliefs about like the spiritual world. I'm like, I'm literally not saying that. I'm saying that like you can have your beliefs, whatever they are, but again, like TPO, like time, place, and occasion, like this is not appropriate to come into this space and impose those ideas and beliefs. You know, if you want to say it on your own time, your own space. So and be prepared for criticism and pushback because you know it's like an inflammatory or like controversial belief. Like if you believe it, you like if you and you stick to it, that's for you. You know, but you have to deal with the consequences of that and the reaction and like the feedback, the debate, the criticism. Like that's human communication, sociology, psychology, you know. So you have to just like accept that. So but again, like in a community space, especially a closed one, it's just not acceptable. So yeah, that's my opinion. I don't know. Maybe people don't agree with me, but that's kind of where I'm coming from about it. But yeah, so I don't know. But it's interesting how people kind of view things and like the differences of beliefs and all this stuff. And I feel like again, like sorry, like what I was trying to say is like I was more like black and white thinking in Canada, like more like I don't know how to say it, black and white thinking, I guess. But when I came to Japan and like living here more, I learned like how to have that like differences and like personal beliefs and like the intersection of like different religious practices and like and like secularism as well. Like living here has kind of taught me this more like advanced or like nuanced. I want to say advanced because for me it's advanced since from how I was in the past, which is more like simplistic. But living here like has shown me how to approach things with more like nuance and understanding and leaving room for the complexity of things, leaving room for people's like individual like beliefs and stuff. So, you know, like maybe I personally don't believe what this person is believing, and I would actually debate with them, but I understand there's like a time and a place and an occasion for everything. So, you know, I'll debate with them maybe like if they like, you know, if it's like a public forum or like it's an interreligious talk and like, you know, I'll say my opinion, they say their opinion, and we're going back and forth. But for me to like go into like a specific community and like assert my opinion, I saw the lights flicker. Again, it's just like, you know, that's not really it's not really Japanese. You know what I mean? Like it's not really Japanese, like it's not the Japanese cultural mindset. I don't know that I've kind of learned from living here. So yeah, like, you know, if I like sometimes, especially in Japanese culture, there'll be times, you know, you have to like participate in various religious events, whether like publicly or like I don't know, personally in your family. So like for example, like a company might do like a Shinto ceremony like on the company grounds and on the company time. And it might be weird for you as a Japanese Christian, you know, like I don't want to like attend this ceremony because I don't like believe in the kami-sama or something. But but because it's a whole thing with the company and it's a social event, it's not even just a private religious event, it's like a social event, it's a company event, it's a team event, it's a whole thing. So, you know, the person has to kind of like just go to it as like to show respect to the company, to their team, to their bosses. And like, you know, no one is asking them to like profess their like renounce their belief in Jesus, but it's kind of like a compromise, right? Like we know you're Christian, but this is like we got to do this for the company, and it's like a whole thing, and it's like the occasion. And again, like they're not going to ask them to like change anything on their private time, but like this is what's going to happen. So it's like that whole complex, nuanced situation. And like people make compromises, they make room for respect to these situations. You know, and I think that's really good. Like I think that's fair. You know, I think that's good. Like it's better than like showing up to the company event and like there's a whole scene now and like everyone is causing like a big situation because like I'm Christian, I didn't want to attend, and now you're forcing me to attend, and it's like a whole like trouble. Meanwhile, it's like, you know, it's like no one's asking you to do anything, just like for the sake of this situation for like 20 minutes, just sit in the back and be a part of the team, and then we're done. Like it's not a big deal. So, you know, it's kind of like that level of compromise. And maybe not everyone likes that. Maybe not everyone likes that like you know, like it's not really like individualistic. You know, maybe not everyone likes that or like thinks it's wrong or like bad. But I think within reason, I think it's okay for me personally. Like I don't think Like if it was reversed and I was asked to like, well, this has happened to me many times already, where like in my family, like I'm invited to like Easter mass or like Christmas mass, and I'm like, I don't like believe anything in the Christian sense. Like I don't believe the teachings of the Bible, and like I have my own viewpoint, but I'm not gonna cause a scene. I'm just gonna go to the mass and enjoy it as like a cultural thing, as like a family thing, and appreciate the tradition that I see. And even if I have a lot of criticisms about it in history and like a lot of other issues with it, but for that moment with my family, it's not the time and place for that. I'm not gonna like cause a whole situation. So, I'm gonna have like my opinions and my beliefs, and I'll say them at another point in time, but I'm not gonna say them in that moment with my family. So it's like that for me. I preferred that level of compromise. But again, like it always depends. It always depends on the situation, the time, the place, the people. Like, maybe sometimes criticism in that moment is warranted. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It always depends on the situation. But if things are just normal, then I don't see a problem with just like, going there for, family or company or something. Okay, sorry, let me read the comments. Okay, so Vadim says, I've had a terrible experience with other religions where I could do everything possible, but my prayers never seemed to make any difference. It was only when I started practicing Konko that my prayers began to be answered. Yes. So to be honest, at this point, I don't really give much thought to whether there are other gods, Yahweh or anyone else. Respect to people's faith doesn't mean I actually believe they exist, to be honest. Ah, yes, exactly. Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. Like again, like what I said about the Christian example just now, like I can go to a church, but I don't like feel anything in those teachings or those beliefs. And that's fine. Like it's just how it is for me. And, it is what it is, right? But I'm not gonna like take that opportunity in the church to make a scene and like tell my mom like this is all BS or something. Like I wouldn't do that. Like maybe later at home I would be like it's so boring at the math or something, but no. But I don't know. It's just like that, right? So it's perfectly fine to like you don't have to like follow everyone's particular beliefs or like agree with them. But again, like there's the line between like, okay, this is like my spiritual beliefs and experiences, and then like basic human respect for other people. Because like it's interesting because like similar happened to me where I like nobody would answer my prayers until I prayed to Tenchika no Kami-sama, and I did Toritsugi mediation, and like I really felt Kami-sama like working to help me. So it's very similar. And then from my practice in Tenchika no Kami-sama, like my faith and my prayers, my practice, that's kind of when I was able to feel the other deities more for me personally. But that's not for everybody. That's like maybe it's not for other people to like feel like, it's like different for everybody. What kind of reminds me of it was like, you remember in the Kyoten when like Amaterasu Somi Kami-sama and Tenchika no Kami-sama were like arguing basically about Konko Daijin-sama, and they were talking about like he should be my Ujiko, and she was like, no, he should be my Ujiko, like my follower. But then like they made a compromise, and then like Konko Daijin-sama said like, I'll have your son go worship at Ise, but I will be like devoted to Tenchika no Kami-sama. And then like he was devoted to Tenchika no Kami-sama. So like maybe it's the same way where like for you to be an Ujiko of like Tenchika no Kami-sama, of Konjin-sama, and to be connected to them, and your prayers go to them only, and like other Kami-sama, even they like maybe if I don't know if they like I don't know for sure, like I can't say for sure if like they exist or don't exist because I don't exist in Kakuryo, but it could even be that like because you're Kami-sama's Ujiko, like Tenchika no Kami-sama's Ujiko, Konjin-sama's Ujiko, an Ujiko of the Konko Faith, like your spiritual connection and your prayers are like within this like faith, and that's how your prayers resonate the most based on your own mitama no kami-sama. So that's an important thing too, because I think it goes back to our own mitama no kami-sama too, and we don't know about the mitama no kami-sama really. We just know it's a piece from it's a piece. I think it's a wake mitama, like it's part of the whole. It's not like a separate thing. It's like a part of, basically it's part of Tenchika no Kami-sama, like the whole. So like we don't actually know it's like nature or like aspects or like the deeper things, right? So the same way, like every individual is different with different personality, different viewpoints. I am going to like follow the logic follows the same way, where our mitama no kami-sama are different, and we have like different connections, like being an ujiko. So like it can be like, in a way, like I don't want to say like destiny, but it's like divine arrangement, where your mitama no kami-sama is like most at home, or like most resonant, or most connected to Tenchika no Kami-sama, to Konjin-sama. Because I have heard, like, even for me, but like also for others, like other ministers in Konkokyo, like they show respect to the other Kami-sama, but they know like if they pray to another Kami-sama, like nothing will happen because they're an Ujiko of Tenchika no Kami-sama, Konjin-sama, of Ikigami Konkodaichi-sama, and that their prayers can only be answered by communicating to them. And I don't know if this sounds a little bit weird to like people who don't kind of like know, like not people here, but like in general, like people who watch this maybe after. But it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's kind of like, what's a good metaphor? What's a good metaphor for this? Like maybe a good metaphor is like I don't know. I don't want to like diminish the Ujiko connection because that's really serious, but I don't know. I guess it's like, okay, so my sensei kind of compared it sometimes to like a samurai lord, like a daimyo, and you're kind of like their retainer. So like as the retainer of the lord, of the samurai lord, like you only ask him if you can do something, or like request him something. And it would be like super bad if you asked another samurai lord, because that's like, you're not his retainer. Like it would be super disrespectful. And the daimyo would like, even the other daimyo, like it would be bad on them to answer your request, because then they would offend the other daimyo. So it's like, oh my god. So they would just not answer your request, and they'd be like, go to your daimyo and like ask him what you need to do because like you're not my retainer, like don't come here. So it's kind of like that. Like if you're daimyo, if you're like ujigami, you're like your kami-sama is like tenchika no kami-sama, konjin-sama, like it, like you like it, the connection is there. And so like if you ask kami-sama, like tenchika no kami-sama something, then they will grant it to you because you have that connection. But if you ask another daimyo, they're gonna be like, no. And especially for Tenchika no Kami-sama, because they're like like they're like kind of like more ancestral, like they're like root Kami-sama. So like it's extra bad if like the other Kami-sama doesn't like show respect to that. So like it's very important to like this kind of like dynamic. So that is also playing a part, like the ujigami and the ujiko connection. So it's very like daimyo and the retainer, like it's that connection. So that can also be a reason why like the connection is very deep between your mitama no kami-sama, and that's why like the other kami-sama, like no. I think like because when I asked my sensei the same thing, he explained it to me like that. Like he was like, your daimyo is Tenchika no Kami-sama, and like you only need to ask them for anything, and like the other Kami-sama, like they're not gonna be like offensive to Tenchikano Kami-sama and like answer like for them or like to their retainer. So it's like it's complicated like that. But absolutely like it's so important. And I feel like we're guided on that note. Like when I said like destiny earlier, I don't mean like it's predetermined, but it's like divine arrangement because we're guided towards the right kamisama. And that's why I say to people like don't force it, like don't force things. Like it's okay to explore and like try, but like don't if there's no real connection, like don't force it. Like keep looking, like keep trying to connect to other kamisama because the ujigami connection could be a factor, you know. It's not for all people. Like some people just go through life and just pray at any jinja and it's all good. But for certain people, there's absolutely like an ujigami ujiko connection where it's like very deep. So like I actually have a friend who's like very devoted to Inari Kami-sama. And like they come here to the Hiromai, but like they've been in the Konko Faith for a super long time. And I remember they had like a situation where they were like they felt bad because they were like I want to be Konko, but I can't. Like I feel like in my heart, like I just like it feels like I just feel like I cannot. Like I feel like I'm betraying Inari Kami-sama. And I was like, no, like listen, it's okay. Like Inari Kami-sama is your ujigami. Okay, like that's okay. Like you don't have to feel like you have to be Konko because you have like ties here, like social ties. Like it's okay to come here and like do toritsugi and like pray to like say hello to kami-sama, like give thanks to kami-sama, like tenchikano kami-sama. But if your faith itself in your heart is with Inari Kami-sama, then like please go to Inari faith because it would be insincere to Tenchikano Kami-sama to pray to them only for social reasons. And it would be insincere to Inari Kami-sama to not pray to them just because of social reasons. Like it would cause a bad situation for everybody, especially on the sincere side. So that's why I was like, no, like please like connect more to Inari Kami-sama, like connect more to Inari faith. That's really important. And of course you can be a friend of Konko Kyo and you can come here, like you're always welcome. But it's about that sincerity. Like you have to be sincere. Otherwise, like if you just try to force it or like do it for social reasons, that's not sincere. And it's just causing like it's bad on both sides. Like it's not respectful to the Konko faith or Tenchikano Kami-sama. It's not respectful to Inari faith or Inari Kami-sama. So it's important to be true to yourself and your Mitama no Kami-sama. So that's kind of like the difference here. But yeah. Oh no, your day is coming. Well, probably it's like 2 a.m. But yeah, like it's late. Weird things happen. But yeah. And Max says, that's the best approach. I do the same. Oh, thank you. Yes. And Zephyr says, the daimyo retainer analogy works well for Ujiko. Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. When my sensei explained it, it kind of clicked for me. Like, it's not perfect, but it makes a lot of sense, especially with the Japanese cultural element. It makes a lot of sense to me, like, to have that, like, connection, that loyalty to a particular kami-sama and, like, the deeper connection. Michael says, can Ujiko switch to a different kami-sama? I heard it is a kami-sama of their clan or homeland, but was also told that Ujigami is a kami-sama of a place where your heart is, not necessarily your home. Oh, yes. So, like, sorry, let me go back a bit. So, officially speaking, Ujigami is clan kami, and it, like, originally referred to, like, the kami-sama of your, like, literal clan, like your Uji. So, like, the family, the clan you were a part of, you would worship that kami-sama. And it was more like a social thing, more than like a deeper faith thing. But over time, it kind of evolved another meaning, which is like the kami-sama of your heart and your true faith. Now it's kind of called the suke kami, like the sukesha, like not sukesha, sorry, that's the worship group, but like suke kami, I think sukegami, I don't remember. But they kind of changed the terminology now. So like ujigami refers to like your local jinja, suke kami, if I don't know, oh my gosh, I'm so bad like remembering the terms. It's particular, but that refers to like the kami of your faith. And then, then there's like Amaterasu no Kami-sama, who's like the Kami-sama of the country. That's like kind of the typical Japanese worship style. But before this kind of like system, it was like Ujigami referred to the Kami-sama of your faith. And yeah, Konko retains that old meaning where Ujigami means like the Kami-sama, not of your like clan or like your region. Also, they changed it too because the regional Kami-sama was called the Ubusanagami, like the Kami-sama of your birthplace, and that also exists. But then it also like is complicated because it kept changing over time. Like the definitions kept changing over time because of the way society evolved. Like not everyone stays in the same village with the same clan. Like it kind of evolved to like a nuclear family, and like people are moving all the time, and people have their own personal faith rather than just like worshiping the village deity. So it's like it changed over time. But in the Konko faith and Konko Kyo, the meaning of Ujigami is like one of the older ones, which means like a kami-sama you're like directly, like deeply connected to. And Ujiko is like the reciprocal word to define us. Okay. Bye, Zephyr. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. But so like if you're referring to like Ujigami and Ujiko as in like the really deep faith, basically like we don't choose that. Like we don't choose that. Like it's like a series of events that leads us to a particular kami-sama, and we might be very like devoted, but it's up to the kami-sama to like guide us to the right Ujigami. It's not like a person's choice on that deeper sense. But if it's like referring to Ujigami as like the clan kami-sama or like the local kami-sama, like yeah, that can change. But if we're talking about like the deeper like spiritual meaning, like as like as in terms of like Ujigami as in like the one you're connected to the most, it's like it's completely up to kami-sama. So like for example, in Konkokyo, there's the story of Reverend Takashi Tomi sensei. And in the book, it says she was an Ujiko. Sorry, she was an Ujiko of Kompira-sama, the kami-sama of like sea and like sailors and like many other things. So she was originally Ujiko of Kompira-sama, but when she went to Konko Daijin-sama's Hiromai for the first time, she was like pushed by Kompira-sama. Like she like literally like jumped like in the Hiromai. So like she was in the back here, and like she got pushed, she said, by Kompira-sama to like go all the way to the okekai, like to the mediation place. And she was confused because she was like very devout in Kompira-sama because Kompira-sama saved her from like a really bad illness. And so she was like super devout. Like she wasn't really like coming to the Konko, she wasn't coming to the Hiromai to like change her faith. Like she was just coming because she was curious. And if I remember correctly, like Kompira-sama like guided her here. And she originally didn't want to go closer, but Kompira-sama like it's like, no, go closer. And in that moment, it was like Kompira-sama saying like thank you for being my Ujiko, but this is your Ujigami-sama and not me. I'm not your Ujigami-sama. Tenchika no Kami-sama, Konjin-sama is your Ujigami-sama. So please come here from now on. So it was like that situation, like where like it's decided by the kami-sama. It's not really decided by like our choice. But it works out. Like it works out for everybody. Like it's not like a forced thing. Like it's not like she's like, I don't want to. It was more like she was confused, and then she was like, but wait, I like this faith. And then she became very devout naturally, and she became one of the most like legendary senseis. So so it's like it was like Kompira-sama knew like like she would connect to Tenchika no Kami-sama, to Konjin-sama deeply, and have sincere faith and be like a sincere Ujiko. So it's kind of like that more like deeper level, it's not like a choice really, but it's interesting like that. It's a lot of stories like that situation. Let's see. And yes, William says, yes, Jinja Honcho calls shrine that you have personal connection with Suke Jinja. Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, exactly. So, like, back in the day, that was more like, it was basically referring to, like, Ujigami, basically. And then, like, I don't know. I want to say I don't think it was a busana kami, but it was like another term that's not used anymore. So it was like the kami of your like birthplace and the kami of your village and the kami you had a connection to. And there was no like mandatory, like not mandatory, but there was no like idea to you had to like have the Jingu Taima. Like there was nothing like it was very different before Meiji era. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm referring to here. But yeah, thank you so much for asking. But yeah, I've heard like so many stories of like Ujigami stories of like people who are like conflicted and they didn't know what is the right path or the right kami-sama to worship, but they were like guided to it through like events. Maybe not as dramatic as like Reverend Takashi Tomie, where she like was jumping, but like similar conflicts and like guidance and like for example, like similar to what you mentioned, Vadim san, and like what I've been through is like, it's like you pray about something really deep and then like nothing happens and you feel like abandoned and you question like if gods even really exist, if like divinities really exist. But then you're guided and you find a kami-sama who's like actually answering your prayers and like doing like helping you through horrible situations and like changing your whole life. That's what happened to me. And like to me that is like the Ujigami connection, like it's very deep and like very real. Like it's not even like I don't even have to convince people about it because it just happens, like these situations just happen. So, but I think it always begins with like a desire to connect as well. So like, or like a crisis or like desperation. My sensei told me once, like some of the strongest faith is born out of like desperation and suffering. And what I mean by that is like when you're going through so much suffering and like so much pain and you just like you need that help and you need that connection more than anything. That's when like really strong faith it can bloom and can connect and can happen, like manifest. I don't know how to explain it, but that's when it like starts to come alive, you know. But people who kind of like live kind of like, pretty normal life, pretty average life, there's nothing really severe happening or like big situations that like make you feel like you need to connect, that it's harder for that to happen. And you kind of get like the people, they just kind of follow like culturally religion or like, the people here in Japan, they just go to any jinja or something for like New Year's. But for people who like have really been through something like really hard things and they have that desperation, like that necessity to connect to Kami-sama, that's when like really strong faith and connection can happen. Or like again, like for Reverend Takashi Tomie, like she got really sick, or like even Konko Daijin sama, like he was like he had the throat illness that like almost killed him. But through that like desperation, that like necessity to connect to Kami-sama, that's when like the connection really came strong. So it's like it's a little bit mysterious like that, but it's real. I don't know. I feel like it's real because it's just like again, like you see the pattern and you see like the reality of it like happening. So for me, like it's not even a matter of like theological questioning. It's just like this is how it is. Like this is what happens. So yeah. But yeah, thank you so much. I think it was good today. I just realizing the time. But I should go soon or now really. Tomorrow is another private ceremony. And doesn't start super early, but I should get some sleep. So but thank you so much for today, everyone. And it was really good discussion, I feel. I hope it was okay. And if you have any questions or like need clarification on like the topics today, like please feel free to email me or let me know. And yeah, I'm happy to discuss. So thank you so much for today, and hope you all have a nice day, nice night, wherever you are, and see you next time on Saturday. So okay, please take care. Thank you so much. Bye guys. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Vidim-san. Yes, we'll do our best. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Arigato. Thank you. Bye bye.